Seriously. Apparently that's how I feel about that. Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to do my December book haul Revisited. This is a series that I started earlier this year, and what I'm doing is I'm going back to my first book hauls that I started on this channel, and I'm going back for 2015 and 2016, and I'm showing you all the books that I hauled during that month in both of those years and kind of where I am in them. Have I read them? Have I unhauled some of them? Have I read some of them and still kept them? So I'm kind of giving you an update on where I am with the books that I've hauled. Now this one is going to be the last one for this year. And so starting next year in January, I will still be doing these, but it'll only be for 2017. So I'll only have 1 month to talk about as of next year. But I really like this video, and it's really forcing me to pull these books off the shelves again and see how many I have and kind of re-spark my interest in some of them. So I really am going to continue doing the series in 2018, and I will just be doing my book hauls from 2017 since that's where I'm going to be. And I'm really excited to continue with it. All right, so for the month of December, this is when I was getting a bunch of Book Outlet books because they have their Black Friday sale at the end of November. And so a lot of these are from Book Outlet because of that. I discovered their Black Friday sale and I treated myself, and I still have a ton of them to read. But so many of these are going to be Book Outlet books because of that. These are a lot of Black Friday hauls. So since most of these are Book Outlet books, I'm only going to tell you where they're from if they're not from Book Outlet. So if I don't tell you where they're from, that means they're from Book Outlet because the majority of them are. All right, so for 2015, the first one that I got is The Book of Ivy, and this is by Amy Engel. I have yet to read this, but I still have heard really good things about this duology. I do not have the second book yet. I might wait until I can get the second book in order to just kind of binge read both of them, but I've heard very good things about this, and I haven't read it yet. This was very talked about when it first came out, and it was a lot of people were saying it was a good surprise. They were surprised at how much that they enjoyed the duology. So I need to get the second book, but I still have this one. This next one is Trident K9 Warriors, and this is by Mike Ritland with Gary Brozek, and this is a nonfiction book that follows some of the dogs who are serving with military members, and they're kind of bomb sniffers and you know things like that. They're like security dogs, and I am pretty positive this is going to make me cry because any book involving dogs makes me cry. It never fails. If you want to get me to cry in a book, recommend a dog book to me because I will most likely be bawling my eyes out. I'm such an animal lover. I'm such a dog lover. I just love dogs so much. I have one of my own. We had two, and my Brody passed away earlier this year. But we have my Annabelle, and she is just like the light of my life. I love her so much. And just, you know, reading about other dogs and the connections that they create with humans is just insanely incredible to me. It baffles my mind how loyal they are and how trusting they are. And this one is, the tagline up here is "My Tale from the Training Ground to the Battlefield with Elite Navy SEAL Canines." So these are dogs that worked with Navy SEALs in this book specifically. I definitely still want to read this. Since I did have a dog pass away earlier this year, I'm still not quite ready to jump into something that involves dogs and most likely passing away. So not quite ready yet. Maybe sometime next year I can start getting into more books like this. We'll have to see, but yep, so I still have it. And the next one that I got is Therithmatist by Brandon Sanderson. This is more of a middle grade novel by him. I don't know the full synopsis of it anymore, but I believe it involves a school that a young boy is going to. He realizes something's wrong, and so he kind of is set on this mission to figure out what's wrong and fix it. And I really have enjoyed what I've read by Brandon Sanderson so far, and I want to continue with him, so I thought this would be a good one too, since it is middle grade. I do need to read some more middle grade because of my graduate school focus, which is library sciences, and I am considering very heavily becoming a school librarian. So it would be really good for me to read some more like middle grade and children's books and stuff like that. So I have this one. Another one by Brandon Sanderson that I got is Steelheart, and this is the first book in the Reckoners trilogy. I have read this and I loved it. I am excited to continue with this trilogy as well. And this one is a young adult dystopian, kind of a science fiction, futuristic type of thing, and it follows a group of kids who are trying to overtake their government because their government is incredibly evil, and it is run by a man named Steelheart. And I absolutely loved it. I was really surprised by how much I loved it, and I'm excited to continue with the series, but I did read this one. This next one is The House with the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. I have not read this one yet, but I have heard very, very good things about it. A lot of people consider this kind of a classic, like a more modern classic, I guess you could say. And I believe this is also a dystopian type of story, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't fully remember the synopsis, but I've heard a lot of people raving about it, saying it's one of their all-time favorites, and so I thought I would pick it up while it was cheap on Book Outlet and give it a try. It does have quite a few awards here on the cover too, so I just haven't read it yet. The last one for 2015, I got Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld. This I have not read yet either. I'm hearing mixed things about it. Some people are really enjoying it, some people are not. This is a huge book, but I got it for really, really cheap, so I figured I would go ahead and give it a try. The only book by Scott Westerfeld that I have read was Uglies, and I read that quite a few years ago. I enjoyed it. I haven't really had the desire to continue with that series, but I wanted to see what else Scott Westerfeld had in store because I'm interested in what else he has written, just to see if he's something I would like to continue reading if I do enjoy this one. We'll have to see. I'm just not quite sure about him as an author quite yet, so I still need to read this one. All right, let's move on into 2016. This was a big book haul in 2016, so this is a lot. The first one I got is actually one that I won in a giveaway on Shannon's channel, and her channel is Leaning Lights. I'll leave her link down below. She hasn't been making videos quite as often as she used to, but what she has up is still worth going back and watching. I love her channel. So she sent me Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this is a fantasy book, I believe, and it follows, I think it's a little bit of a twist on kind of a Beauty and the Beast thing, where there is a village that has some sort of curse on it, and there is a forest that surrounds it, and there is a beast that lives in this forest, and he is really tasked with protecting it. And the way that he protects it is he marries one of the citizens. And I've heard very good things about this book. I've heard a couple negative things too. Some people, it's like a love it or hate it type thing. I've seen more love than hate. So I'm really interested to see what my take would be on this. But it's something that has definitely interested me since I saw it going around. And so she had a giveaway on her channel for this, and I was like, yes. So I entered it and I actually won. So I was really excited. So I haven't read it yet though. This next one I actually got at Target, which I don't get books at Target very often because we don't have a Target near us, but whenever I'm there, I end up going to the book section like always. And this one had just come out, so I wanted to go ahead and grab it, and that is The Diabolique by S.J. Kincaid. Still have not read this one yet either, even though I have the second book that I just got on NetGalley, so I need to read this soon so I can read the second book and review it on NetGalley. But this book is I think it's like a science fiction more than anything, and they follow Diaboliques, and the Diaboliques are created to protect humans in any way that they can. Like that's their one sole purpose in life, is to protect the humans. And we follow a Diabolique, don't know the name, but she is tasked with protecting someone, I think of royalty or something like that, and it gets to a point where she actually needs to become this person in order to protect her. Like that's the only way that she can stay protected. So she has to kind of take on human form. She has to learn how to be a human, even though she's kind of a robot, and she kind of struggles with that, I think. I've heard fantastic things about this book. I'm really excited to read it and to read the sequel as well. So this is going to have to happen really soon. The next book is something I got on Amazon, and it is a book that I still really don't know much about. I got it because of the author, and that's The City Stained Red. This is by Sam Sykes. Sam Sykes is the son of Diana Gabaldon, who wrote the Outlander series. And I've actually heard good things about his writing. And so when I saw this going around a couple of times, I was like, I think I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I found it on the Amazon Marketplace for super cheap, and it's in great condition. So I am excited to see what this is about. I believe this is a kind of a historical fantasy type of thing, and I honestly don't remember the premise. I know I read it at one point and thought, yeah, I'm going to get that, and so I did. And I still haven't read it yet. It's a huge book too. It's not a short book, but I'm excited to see, you know, what this is about and try out a new author. The next one I got from Book Depository, and that is The Shadow of the Wind, and this is by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and I have not read this one yet either, but I have heard ridiculously good things about this book. Like, people are calling it a masterpiece, one of their favorites ever, recommending it left and right and left and right. Like, no matter who you are, you're going to love this book. And I believe this is a historical fiction set in Barcelona, and it follows a young boy and his dad, and it's something that involves a book. So I was immediately intrigued because of that. And I think the book is called The Shadow of the Wind. But it has some sort of magical powers, I think, and they're kind of tasked with working with it. That's all I really know. But I still haven't read this, and I really, really want to. It sounds like it would be something right up my alley. And yeah, so it's still sitting on my shelf. All right, so now we're getting into some more book outlet books. The first one here is Veronica Mars, and this is Mr. Kiss and Tell, written by Rob Thomas and Jennifer Graham. This is a little fun spin on the TV show Veronica Mars, which was created by Rob Thomas. And I loved that TV show so much, and the movie as well. I loved it. I was obsessed with it when it was out. And they have at least 2 little books here that are like Veronica Mars mysteries. So I think they're just kind of like continuations of some things that she does. And I thought they were fun. So I have them. I have not read either one of them yet, but I want to. So still have this one. This is number 2. All right, so this one is the first book in a series that I really, really want to get into, and I have the first 3 books, and I'm stocking the 4th book on Book Outlet right now because I want to get the 4th one as well. It's out of stock, but Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is a young adult fantasy. You've probably heard of it. It was huge in the past couple of years. People have talked about this series, and I believe there's 5 books out now. I think number 6, if it's not out already, it's coming out very soon, and people just rave about it. They basically call this like a young adult version of Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I've never read it, never watched it, so I wouldn't be able to compare it all that well, but it got me intrigued. So I have the first 3 books, and I got the first one in 2016, so still haven't read it. Okay, this next one is The Constant Princess by Philippa Gregory. This is where I want to start with Philippa Gregory because this is the first book in her Tudor Court series, and that's the one I'm the most interested in. So I have the first one. This is the ugliest cover I've ever seen, but I'm still interested in reading it. And I've been collecting a little bit of Philippa Gregory here and there, just kind of when I can find them really super cheap. And I wanted to make sure I got this one, and I got it in a Black Friday sale last year because I just knew this was the first one I wanted to start with. Since she has such a big array of books and a lot of them are part of series, I kind of picked the series I wanted to start with, and it was the Tudor Court because that's kind of the one I'm the most interested in, you know, Henry VIII and all that kind of stuff. I'm really interested in all that. So this is the first one, and this is the one I need to start with her. All right, this next one is The End of Alice by A.M. Holmes. This is a super short book, but I haven't read it yet. This one is going to be a heavy topic. This actually follows, I believe, a child molester who is in jail, and he ends up having a correspondence with a teenage girl. They kind of have a correspondence together, and they form this sort of bond through their correspondence. And I'm sure it's going to be controversial. I'm sure it's going to be heavy. I'm sure it's going to be hard to read, but I'm still really interested in it. I like to read books that challenge me like that, and I just haven't done it yet, but I've heard very good things about it. All right, this next one is A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. This book won the Man Booker Prize a couple of years ago, and I was interested in it. This is kind of a historical fiction take on Jamaica and the time when Bob Marley was alive and playing in Jamaica. There was actually a plot to assassinate him. I believe that was a real event, and this is kind of a fictional take on that, and it involves the government and lots of stuff happening. I've heard very, very good things about it from people who have read it, and yep, so I bought it, and it's still sitting on my shelf. This next one I actually talked about recently in my top 8 books I want to read in 2018, so this will be read sometime next year, and that's Forbidden by Tamitha Suzuma. Again, this is another controversial book involving a incestual relationship between a brother and a sister. I've heard mixed things about it. I actually have heard more good things than bad, but I've been hearing some bad things recently too. And I'm like, okay, great. Which actually makes me a little bit more intrigued to read it just to see what my opinion personally about it would be. So I do plan to read this next year. These next two books are actually a duology that I got on Book Outlet, and they are The Wrath and the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger, both by Renee Ahdieh. And again, this is a duology. It's a young adult fantasy duology that is a retelling of 1001 Nights. I read both of these this year. I absolutely loved them. It was a great, great duology, and I really just thoroughly enjoyed reading both of them. So yay, 2 more read. This next one is book number 2 in a trilogy, and I'm actually currently reading the first one, but I got the 12 by Justin Cronin, and this is book number 2 in the Passage trilogy. And again, I'm reading The Passage right now, and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm only 150 pages in right now, but I've absolutely loved what I've read so far. It's incredibly dense and very interesting. And this is kind of a post-apocalyptic book, and there's vampires involved, and it's kind of a government experiment gone very, very wrong. And it is so incredibly interesting so far, and I'm really, really enjoying the first book. So when I'm done with that, I'm probably going to want to move on to this sometime next year as well, so I can kind of continue. But yeah, I picked up the second one on Book Outlet while it was cheap. This next one is A Little Life, and this is by Hanya Yanagihara. And this, I believe, was also a Man Booker finalist. I think it's also a National Book Award finalist, which is what's on here. And I believe this follows, I don't know if it's one person or if it's a group of men or not, but it kind of follows their life and a lot of hardships that either he or they are going through. I don't fully know. When I go into this, I'm going to go into it a little bit blind because I'm not 100% sure. I've just heard rave reviews and people going into it who weren't quite sure about it, but when they finished it, they absolutely loved it. So, yep, I have it. I haven't read it. Okay, this is another sequel in a series, and I got The Rose and the Thorn by Michael J. Sullivan. This is part of a fantasy series called The Rhyuria Chronicles. I have the first book as well. This is book number 2. I haven't started it yet. I'm not 100% sure about this one. I think I need to do a little bit more research into it just to make sure I'm starting in the correct place, because I think there's multiple places you can start. I kind of want to start at the beginning and move that way. So I just need to make sure that I'm on the right path here because I'm not 100% sure. But I've heard good things about it actually. And yeah, so I haven't started it yet though. Okay, this next one is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I did read this year as well. I actually listened to the audiobook of this because it is read by Claire Danes and it was fantastic. She did a great job narrating it. And you probably know what this is about, but it's like a dystopian futuristic type of book where there are a certain class of women who are incredibly oppressed and really forced into really bad situations because of the government. It was really interesting. It was really good. I'm very, very excited to watch the TV show now. So that's going to be something I'm going to be doing hopefully here pretty soon in the next couple of months, is watching that TV show. And yeah, so I read this one. This next one is The Stars Never Rise by Rachel Vincent. This is the first book, I believe, in a series. And I'm not 100% sure about this one. I actually kind of want to read it just to see what I think and if I would want to continue, because again, this is the first book in a series. But this was mainly a cover buy for me, honestly. I think I did read the synopsis before I bought it, and I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. And I love the cover with the butterfly on it, but I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to think about this in general. So it does need to be something that I need to read soon so that I can just kind of get a feel for it and see what I think, or if it's just going to be something that I'm like, okay, yeah, I read that, I'm good. We'll see, but I still have it. Next, I actually hauled 2 bind dumps that are part of a series, and they are the Shadowfall series by CC Hunter. So this is the first bind up. This is books number 1 and 2 in the Shadowfall series, and this is books number 3 and 4 in the Shadowfall series. And there's 5 books total, so I don't have number 5. I don't know if I'm going to buy it or not, or if I'm just going to like get that from the library when I get there eventually. It depends on how much I enjoy the first 4. If I really enjoy the first 4 and want to buy the final one, then I will just go ahead and do that. But as of right now, I'm just going to hang on to these and see what I think. But I really like the covers of these actually, and they feel really good and floppy, and they're huge. And I really like the spines as well. So we'll see. But I did read the first chapter in the first book as part of a Triad chapter tag, and I enjoyed it. So I'm definitely interested in reading, you know, the first book to see what I think. But yep, so I have 4 books right here. This is the last Book Outlet book I have. I do have a few more books here that I got in other places, but this is the last one that I got from Book Outlet, and I'm still laughing at myself. I love this book so much. When I look at it on my shelves, I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. I so want to read you one day. But I'm still laughing because it's just ridiculously huge. And that is Les Mis by Victor Hugo. And it's huge and ridiculous and tiny, tiny print. But this cover, you guys, I'm still obsessed with this cover. It's so beautiful and whimsical and just gorgeous. And the spine is beautiful. I love it on my shelf. And the back is beautiful. And it's just ridiculous. And the flaps are beautiful. Like, look at this. This is ridiculous. I don't know who came up with this, but I'm obsessed with it. And I definitely want to read Les Mis one day. This is going to be a big, big, big project. I'm not ready to take it on yet, but I love the stage show. I've seen it, I think I've seen it 3 times, and I would go again in a heartbeat. I have seen specials of this on TV, the 10th anniversary special, if you can find it. It was on PBS a very, very long time ago, but I found it on YouTube at one point. If I can find it, I'll try to link it below, but it's a 10th anniversary special where they have some of the best people who have sang those parts, and they came together and did like a concert. So it's not like the stage play, but it's a concert. Oh, it's phenomenal. I could watch that thing all day, every day. I did at one point. But I just loved it so much. I loved the movie adaptation that came out a couple of years ago with Anne Hathaway and Hugh Jackman in it. It was fantastic. I just love this story. The story is so incredibly heartbreaking and just interesting. And so I would like to read the original work, though. I have not read the original work, and I want to. So just to see where all of the inspiration came from and, you know, how they came to all this stuff. But it's going to be a project, so I don't know. We'll see when it's going to happen. This next book is one that I got at the dollar store. I just picked it up randomly and then got home and went, oh, this is the 3rd book in a series. Fantastic. I got Wings by Elizabeth Richards. This is part of the Black City trilogy, which I have gone back and bought the first 2 books, actually. So I do have the full trilogy now, but this is one that I just bought in December on a whim and then went, oops. Guess I should go get the other 2. This next one is one that I got as a white elephant gift in my book club, and we did like a white elephant gift exchange in December, and this was the gift that I got, and it was a book, and I was really excited. This is The Perfect Girl by Gilly Macmillan, and I did read this, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good book. This is the first one by her that I've read. I definitely want to read more from her. I've heard some of her other books are a little bit better than this one, so if I enjoyed this one, I know I'll enjoy the other ones as well. But I have read it. And yeah, it was good. The next one is actually a book that I have unhauled, and that was an arc of the Shimmering Road, and this is by Hester Young. And this was book number 2 in a series, the Charlotte Cates series, I believe, and I enjoyed this book. I read the first one as well, which is called The Gates of Evangeline, and then I read The Shimmering Road, and I enjoyed both of them. They're a little bit contemporary mixed with some paranormal aspect of it as well, and they're kind of mystery novels too, so I enjoyed them. It was good. Another book that I actually unhauled is a book that I got at the dollar store, and that is Spy Mom, and it was 2 books in one. I do not remember the name of the author, but I got it, and then, because it just sounded like, you know, just a fun read, but then upon looking at my bookshelves, I got really realistic about what I was going to read and really, really enjoy, and that was just one that wasn't going to make the cut for me. I thought it would be like maybe a fun thing to read, but probably wouldn't be groundbreaking or anything, and that's kind of what I'm looking for more to be on my shelves than anything else. So I did go ahead and unhaul that one. And the next one is Under the Harrow, and this is by Flynn Berry. This is another one that I won in the same giveaway on Shannon's channel. They did come separately, so I hauled them at different times, but I won this one on her channel as well, along with Uprooted. And I'm excited to read this one. I've actually heard good to great things. Like, not everything was super great, but still worth the read. This one is very short, so I don't know why I haven't read this yet. I might do this one in October, like as kind of a spooky type of read. But yeah, so I'm excited to read it and give it a try and see what I think about Flynn Berry as a writer. The next one that I hauled, I've actually unhauled since, and I actually DNF'd it. So I did try to read it, but I got a quarter of the way through it and I was really, really bored. So I ended up DNFing it. But that is The Lace Reader by Brunonia Berry. And I don't know, this is like a historical fiction type of book, and it involved someone who made lace, and the lace gave her special powers to see into the future or something. I didn't like it. It was very, very dry and very boring. And if I'm, you know, a quarter of the way through a book and I'm just like glazing over and not even really paying attention to what's happening, then I'm done. So I went ahead and unhauled that one. And I have a few more books here, and these are all books that I had gotten at Goodwill. The first one is From Notting Hill with Love Actually. This is written by Ally McNamara. This was a pure cover buy. Look how cute that is. Isn't that adorable? And then I love the title as well. And I believe that this follows a woman who's kind of obsessed with these type of like Hugh Grant movies, the rom-com type of stuff. Who isn't? We all love that kind of stuff. And then she actually ends up finding herself in England and like seeing the places where these films were filmed, and, you know, like she kind of gets caught up in all this kind of stuff. I thought it sounded like a really cute contemporary. I still want to read it. I don't think it's going to be anything mind-blowing, but I just think it's going to be fun. And seriously, this cover, I love it. I hope I like the book so I can keep the cover. If I don't like it, I will get rid of it. But oh my gosh, it's just so adorable. I absolutely love this. And yeah, I want to read this, like maybe sometime next year. Maybe, Julie, I'm talking to you. If there's another contemporary-a-thon, maybe I will throw this one in for that, because next time there's a contemporary-a-thon, read-a-thon, I want to join in. I wasn't able to do it the first time around, but number 2, if they do another one, I'm going to definitely try to do that. So I'm going to keep this one in mind. All right, this next one that I found at Goodwill is True Colors by Kristen Hanna. And I just read my first Kristen Hanna book, and I read The Nightingale and loved it. Like, I don't think there's a word to accurately express how much I love that book, because that doesn't. But I definitely want to get more into Kristen Hanna now, and I have a couple of her books, so this was one that I just found at Goodwill. It's not in the best shape, I'll be completely honest. It's a little bit ripped up here, and the spine's definitely broken in a couple places, but it was only a couple dollars, so I just figured I'd go ahead and get it. This is going to be, I think, more of a kind of a chick lit type of book versus The Nightingale, which is historical fiction. So I'm not expecting it to be The Nightingale, but I definitely want to get more into Kristen Hanna and her books and just see what else I think. All right, 2 more, guys. The next one is Deadline by Randy Alcorn. This is the first book in the Ollie Chandler trilogy, and this is one where I accidentally got the second book at a library sale, didn't realize it was the second book in a trilogy, and then I ended up going to Goodwill a couple weeks after that, and I found the first one, and I was like, oh, perfect. So I went ahead and grabbed it, and I have not started this trilogy yet, but I will sometime. I just haven't done it yet. And this last book that I got in December of 2016 at Goodwill, and I could not believe my luck on this one. I found a Leanne Moriarty book. This was her newest release, and it's Truly Madly Guilty. And this is not only a signed copy, it's a signed first edition. And I found it at Goodwill for $2. I was like, huh? Like, who donates a signed first edition? They probably could have gotten, like, they could have sold this online and gotten money out of it. Whatever, if you really don't want it that bad. I'll take it for $2. So I really lucked out on this one. I'm really excited about it, and I have not read this one yet, but Leanne Moriarty is definitely one that I want to read all of her books. I actually own almost all of them. There's one that I don't have yet, but I'm going to plan to get it so I can have all of her books and just start really reading my way through them. But of the 2, I've read 2 of her books so far, and I've loved both of them. So yep, I was super excited to find this one. Okay, guys, that's it. That was a lot of books. That was a lot of Book Outlet Black Friday books. Final numbers are in the month of December. For the past 2 years, I hauled a total of 37 books. I read 6 of them, which is terrible. I unhauled 3 of them, and I still have 27 books sitting on my shelves that I have not read yet. So yes, there were 2 other books that I had hauled, and they're cookbooks, so I'm not really counting those, you know, not enough to like show them in the video and stuff. They're cookbooks, they're fine. But I got those on the Book Outlet sale in 2015 as well. All right, that's it. That's a lot. But Yeah, so not the best numbers this month either, but I'm excited to continue with this video series next year, and they will definitely be shorter since I'm only going to be doing, you know, 1 year versus doing 2 years this year, just because I was trying to play a little bit of catch up on it when I started this series. But I do want to thank Julie from Pages and Pens, who did a video like this and kind of gave me the idea to do it. And I asked her if she wouldn't mind if I did my own take on it. And she said, absolutely. So she was really the big inspiration behind this video series for me. And I've just really been enjoying it and pulling these books out again and thinking, yes, I love this. And yes, I still want to read this. Or, hey, I did read this. Or, you know, just things that I've unhauled. A few things I've even unhauled afterwards because I pulled them out and looked at them again and went, do I really want to read this? I'm not really sure. So it gave me a lot of opportunity to do that as well. All right, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I am excited to continue this coming up in January of 2018 as well. All right, I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye.